Mazel tov. As those of you who are gathered here for this simcha know very well, Chayei Sarah is a Torah portion about love and legacy. I believe this is the second of 4 times this story will be told from this bima, that Saul Birnbaum was born on this Shabbat Chayei Sarah. I believe became bar mitzvah also on Parshat Chayei Sarah, and at a Judy and David Hanukkah Palooza concert. By the way, there is not a Hanukkah Palooza this year. However, he's gone so I can say it. However, we're having a religious school service at 9:45 here, and we have certain guests that are coming to join us for that service. So, at a Hanukkah Palooza concert, Saul met a beautiful woman named, in Hebrew, Chayei Sarah. So, as we turn again to this parasha, to this moment, we turn to it celebrating the life of Sarah, and in this moment, the legacy that starts with Sarah's passing. The section of Torah that we began with today, that Karen began with, then Sam and Harrison kept on reading, is the story of finding Rebecca. And that story starts with this line: V'Avraham zaken ba bayamim, v'Adonai berach et Avraham bakol. Abraham was old, advanced in years, and the Eternal had blessed Abraham in all things. This line in the Torah is likely just a preamble foreshadowing the story to come, where grandchildren are on the horizon. Abraham finds a next wife, a second wife, that he is passionate enough about to father more children in his old age. But the line by itself, Abraham is old and he's blessed with all things, I find by itself a bit confusing. Aging, as I've heard, is not for the faint of heart. Dr. Judith Baskin, a sister to our ex-president David Baskin, in the Torah Woman's Commentary, lifts up a reading of this verse from the Midrash, which answers the question, why now does it say that Abraham was old? Because life had caught up to him after Sarah's death. Sarah, of whom the book of Proverbs exclaims, the heart of her husband trusts in her and therefore lacks no good thing. Sarah, who walked alongside him as he glanced into a puddle, saw her reflection and realized after around 100 years of marriage how beautiful she was. When she was next to him, he felt young, full of strength. Why could Abraham sit in his tent in the heat of day? Because he was sustained by his love of Sarah. I'm sure as well as the hours of unpaid physical labor and the heavy mental load she carried on his behalf. And when she died, suddenly, old age overtook him. And so then we see the next half of the verse. The Eternal had blessed Abraham in all things. Seriously, how could this be? His wife just died. His son is unmarried. What's going on here? The rabbis give a few suggestions. Although there are not yet grandchildren to spoil with camel milk chocolate bars, Abraham was blessed with children, including Maybe this is a hint he had a daughter not mentioned in the text, suggest some rabbis. Other rabbis are not convinced that progeny are fulfillment, or are total fulfillment here. They posit that maybe what is being celebrated here, Abraham is blessed in all things, is he finally has the confidence to conquer his own desires. Maybe that he was financially secure finally. That Abraham's children, Yitzchak and Ishmael, finally reconcile. Or that God had finally stopped testing him. What does it mean to be blessed with all things, to find fulfillment? What does it mean to be blessed bakol, with all? I want to read this verse differently in the context of the Midrash that Judith Baskin raises up. When Sarah first died, our text reads, Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, Vayavo Avraham lispod l'Sarah. Abraham proceeded to mourn for Sarah and bewail her. Lispod. Abraham eulogized Sarah. The origin of the term hesped, eulogy, in our tradition starts with Sarah's death. While this is mentioned just for a moment, I believe that it sets up the rest of the parashah. That Abraham, as he got up from mourning, re-engaged with the world. That Abraham started to live his life as a hesped, a eulogy for Sarah, living his life in her honor. The Torah portion Chayei Sarah contains in it the rest of Abraham's life. God blessed Abraham with all. This maybe means that Abraham had the courage to move from mourning Sarah to living in honor of Sarah's life. After all of God's tests, I read in this story a different kind of faith from Abraham. A faith and a confidence that he and his community can overcome the problems in front of them as they appear. That he proactively can start seeking out the good and helping those grandchildren appear around him. Happiness is the joy you find on hundreds of forgettable Wednesdays. Happiness is the joy you find on hundreds of forgettable Wednesdays. This is a quote that Sheryl Sandberg found meaning in after the death of her husband, David Goldberg. A quote that lifts up those mundane moments and makes them sacred. She ends her book, Plan B, with excerpts from the Hesped to her husband, where she promises that she will help him live on through living her life, raising their children. Even though grief unfolds around her, sometimes crashing like a wave and then retreating like a tide, she writes, we can still love. We can still find joy. Without Abraham, without Sarah, Abraham was now old, advanced in years. And as he processed that loss, the Eternal blessed Abraham in all things, in the faith to keep celebrating and living life. I pray that we are all able to find moments in our lives where we can appreciate the blessings and have faith that the community around us will support us in whatever life's challenges bring, and thus give us an inner sense of peace and fulfillment, of love and legacy. Shabbat Shalom.